The US has quietly reached an agreement with Qatar to extend operations at America's largest military base in the Middle East. That is according to 3 US defense officials and another official familiar with the deal. The Aludid Air Base has been a pivotal hub for the US Central Command's air operations across the region. The extension is set to cover another 10 years. The deal has not been announced publicly, but it highlights Washington's reliance on the tiny Gulf country. Well, CNN national security reporter Natasha Bertrand is at the Pentagon. I'm not sure that there was much suggestion that this wouldn't be continued, but what do we know at this point?
Yeah, Becky, so the U.S. and Qatar, they reached a deal very quietly and without any public announcement that the U.S. was going to be extending the U.S. military presence at this sprawling military base in Qatar for another 10 years. And the reason this is notable is precisely as you said, there really wasn't any doubt that the U.S. would not renew this deal. It is an extremely important military facility for the United States. It can house over 10,000 troops, and particularly now, as we see the tensions rising across the region with all of these strikes by Iran-backed proxies in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, it makes perfect sense that the U.S. would want to keep its presence in Qatar. But the interesting part of this is that the U.S. has not announced it publicly. There was no public ceremony, signing ceremony, for example, that would extend this lease or renew it. And that is primarily because we are told the U.S. has been very reluctant to kind of publicize and play up this aspect of its relationship with the Qataris. The Qataris have come under some criticism here in the U.S. for hosting certain Hamas leaders over the last several months since the October 7th attack. Those calls, of course, have been growing to expel Hamas from Qatar. And the U.S. has been eager to not necessarily distance itself from Qatar, but not necessarily also, tell the American public that they are going to be increasing their military presence there and extending it for another 10 years. This is not something necessarily that is popular in the U.S. right now. So obviously Qatar has been a very key partner with the U.S. in terms of hostage negotiations, whether it's in Israel or in Venezuela more recently. But this is something that the U.S. deems very important, but it's notable that they have not decided to make it public as of now.
Let's remind ourselves, I mean, that Hamas office opened, with support from and some will say at the behest of the U.S. administration.